Joe, we're about 85 hours away.
From?
What's possibly one of the, I was going to say 6 greatest moments of my life. Then I forget.
You have 2 more.
Oops. That's right. No, yeah. Because you got the Bruins in 2011.
Right. The Red Sox in 04.
In 07. I was big with the Red Sox in 04 and 07. You know, a couple kids in there. So, yeah, one of the top 10 greatest moments of my life. Hopefully, this Sunday, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, Super Bowl 53 between the St. Louis Rams of Los Angeles versus the greatest team in the history of football, the New England Patriots.
Welcome to Super Bowl 53 unnecessary preview.
I don't know about you, but I find a lack of coverage of this. So I think we're performing a service. This is good. This is going to be, try to keep it about on the shorter side, about a half hour of completely self-indulgent theater. Joe, here's my hot take. The New England Patriots are the greatest team in the history of football. Your thoughts?
I concur.
So, without boring even you to death, this is Brady's 17th year as a starter. And we talked about it a little bit last week. He's gone to, what is it? Well, how many? 13 AFC title games. It's like 74%. Drew Brees this year broke the record for accuracy with a quarterback at 70.2% passing. Brady has a better chance of going to the AFC title game than Drew Brees does of completing a pass. He has a better statistical chance of getting to, the AFC title game than LeBron James does of hitting a free throw. I mean, that's mind-numbing. And the fact that this is his 9th Super Bowl, and
Tony Romo's first.
And Tony Romo finally makes it to a Super Bowl. And well-deserved, I might say.
Such a hack. Go on.
No, I mean, it's sad, but it's true. And look, if Tony Romo was half the quarterback he is an announcer, or half the quarterback Dallas fans think he was, he would have been there before. Mm-hmm. But staying positive, the Patriots, we'll talk predictions at the end and some of the fun prop bets that are happening. I don't do any of that stuff.
It's just fun to read them.
It is great. Right now, Brady's the only one straight up, a 1-1, a 1-to-1 MVP, and Jared Goff, the quarterback for the Rams, is 2-to-1 odds of winning the MVP.
Okay.
And they're the only ones, and then it goes from there. But more importantly, it's the 9th time that Brady's made it in 17 years, and it's been done. I think after number 4, with the Seahawks and coming back and in that game, I think that ended the debate. I really do, because of free agency, because of salary cap. There's just so many more teams. But then after the Atlanta comeback, his legacy is cemented. Like win or lose, you cannot have the debate anymore who's the greatest.
What about Joe Montana? Don't you think?
So what the one argument that people make, he was 4 for 4 in the Super Bowl and never threw an interception in the Super Bowl. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And you hate arguing against greatness. But again, this is coming from somebody who will tell you why Bobby Orr is greater of a hockey player than Wayne Gretzky, though I have both numbers tattooed on me. So it's hard to say, well, Gretzky wasn't the greatest and this is why. That's a great stat. 4 Super Bowl titles, 4 for 4.
Tom Brady doesn't have a video game named after him, though. A Sega Genesis video game.
I think, God, is Terry Bradshaw 4 for 4? Did Terry Bradshaw lose a Super Bowl? He must have lost a Super Bowl.
Did they make it to 5? Or you think with 3 and 4?
Because Bradshaw has won 4 Super Bowls. Him and Joe Montana. I think they're the only two that have. The few people have 3, but I think Joe Montana and Terry Bradshaw are the only ones with 4 Super Bowls. But he might have lost one.
Yeah.
Anyway. And I hate to say that he might have not won 5, but he. But that's the thing. It's like after the Atlanta thing and the way he came back and stuff like that. He has every record. And yes, it is impressive that Joe Montana has won 4 Super Bowls, 4 for 4, never threw an interception in a Super Bowl. However, he didn't win 4 NFC title games or 5 NFC title games. And in the NFC title game, one NFC title game to the Giants, he lost 45-3. Do you ever remember Brady losing a game 45-3 ever? Or hearing in the backyard he lost like I
don't think he's lost 2 games 45-3 combined.
And then in the NFC title games Joe Montana didn't win. He threw more picks than he threw touchdowns. I think he's like 5 for 4. And again, it's a different game. He had Jerry Rice for 2 of them. And that's not to take away from, his greatness. I mean, Joe Montana was great, different era, but with salary cap, with free agency, it's harder to keep teams together, and it's harder to keep great dynasties. I mean, whether it's the Montreal Canadiens in the 50s and the Yankees in the 50s, or the Yankees in the 70s and the Montreal Canadiens in the 70s. I mean, these are dynasties that lasted. I mean, just sticking on football. The Niners dynasty was a 5-6 year run. Dallas in the 90s was a 4. They won like 3 and 4 years, or 5 and they won 3 in like 5 years and toggled back and forth. I mean, it was great, but I mean, you're talking, this will never happen again. And that's not partisanship. That's not being the homer that I am. You will never have a quarterback go to 9 Super Bowls in a 17-year career. So I think it's done. But sticking to this game, the Rams are a great team. I mean, no shitty team makes it to the Super Bowl.
Right. Let's look at you want to break it down by, break it down, yes. Exactly. As you dance like the white man you are.
It's sad. White people look at me and say, oh, man, you're giving us a bad name.
Right. It's funny how you can dance fat in a chair. It's just like amazing how you can pull that off with such finesse and panache, in other words like that.
Panache?
Yeah. What I was going to say was, let's look at the Rams' offense and defense. What do you see in them that could pose a threat to the New England Patriots?
Their offense is great. It's funny because Cooks, our receiver last year, who just beat the Saints the week before, was a Saint, was a Patriot, and he beat the Saints, and now he's going up against the Patriots. Guy can't hold a job. But their head coach is an offensive genius. Like he is to the offense in his 30s what Belichick was to defenses in his 30. And I don't think it's a coincidence or they got a lucky call, sure, but you should never be one call away from a game. Especially if you're home, the Saints. So I'm not taking anything away. They got a great offense. I mean, they have a great running game. I mean, they have he was runner-up or consider, Gurley for the MVP last year, their running back. Jared Goff is a good young quarterback. I don't think he's Mahomes level, but he's definitely, top-tier quarterback in the league. So they have a great receiving core. They got a great offensive line. That's one of their strong points is they have a fantastic offensive line. The Patriots defense has been better. They don't have the best pass rush. It was literally surprising that the most quarterback hits and sacks that they had all year came in the conference title game
against Mahomes. Yeah, right.
Against a good scrambling quarterback. Right. Can they do that 2 games in a row? Who knows? But yeah, I mean, the Rams offensively are great. Defensively, and I hate the fact that a complete piece of human excrement and Dominic Sue, who probably should be in prison, is I mean, he's was he the number one overall draft pick with the Lions, and he had like 5 overrated years with the Lions, and then he had like 3 overrated years with the Rams. I'm sorry, with the Dolphins, but now he's put it together. They have
Talk about shit luck going from the fucking Lions to the Dolphins.
Right.
Like loser franchises.
Oh, and the Dolphins paid him so much money. I mean, so much money. And I don't think he ever made it. He might have played one playoff game with the Dolphins, but in his whole career, he's played like 2 playoff games, lost them both, before this year. Atiq Khalib, who was a safety with the Patriots, who ended up beating the Patriots twice with the Denver Broncos. I mean, he's older, but he's still, he's not like a shutdown corner, but he's still pretty effing good. And again, they're not, there's no glaring weak link. And it's funny because a couple years ago when they were a shitty team, they had this punter, and I've never heard, other than Lawrence Taylor, I've never heard Bill Belichick gush about a player like he gushes about the Rams punter. And he has been for a couple years about what a weapon he is. And it's funny because it was 2 years ago when they played the Rams, and their punter was their best player. I mean, it's funny that somebody who's going to be on the field as little as possible if things go your way.
Big fish, small pond,
But he's great. I mean, so their special teams is good. Their offense is very good. Their defense, again, can you get lucky and be in a shitty division and get in the playoffs? Sure. Can a bad team, a couple of years ago, Tim Tebow upset the Steelers and actually won a playoff game. Then he came into Gillette the next week and lost by like 40 points. Yeah, you can. But in this day and age, again, with free agency, with salary cap and stuff like that, there's no shitty teams that make it to the Super Bowl. And there have been, back in the, there was a time when AFC teams just got embarrassed by the NFC in playoffs. And then
the New England Patriots, for example.
You don't, yes.
You're wearing the symbol of the team that got embarrassed by the Chicago Bears.
They didn't get embarrassed by the Packers when they lost to them, but
no.
Anyways, but no,
that was a flying Elvis era, to be honest.
Yes, it was. I think was that the first. It was the first year with the
96,
flying Elvis.
95 season, right?
So they, but yeah, there's not going to be a blowout. I don't think. Like with the Chargers that it was blowout, or like it looked like there was going to be a blowout with Kansas City. I expect more of a Kansas City, thing. But that's it. The Rams have a great. Oh, they also have, Wade Phillips, who he's been a head coach. He was head coach for Dallas for like 5 or 6 years. And he's one of those guys, I think I don't know what his record is. Gosh, I should have looked this up. But he had the Denver defense that beat the Patriots twice in the AFC title game a few years back. So Wade Phillips is probably one of the 2-3 best defensive coordinators in the last 20 years in football. He's never been out of a job. His teams are always in the playoffs. He's one of these guys that has a scheme and sticks to it, but it's worked for a long time. So, he's somebody who has played against Tom Brady maybe 15, 16 times and probably, 4 or 5 times in the playoffs. So it's going to be, it's not going to be the Chargers coming to New England.
Now let's look at the Pats defense. What do you see as their strengths and what do they need to work on?
It's so all season long, their line hasn't been great. Their defensive line hasn't been great. They don't get to the quarterback a lot. They don't do well against scrambling quarterbacks. But again, then
it happens in KC. So what the hell?
Right. In their last 4 games, and granted, it's Buffalo at home at the end of the season, who has nothing to play for except not getting hurt going into the offseason. They're playing the Jets at home with literally less than nothing to play for. Let's get through this game. Let's not get hurt. Let's get on the bus. Let's go home. But then the Chargers, then KC on the road, good teams with great quarterbacks. And, granted, they gave up 31 points in 2 quarters to Mahomes. That's
it's better late than never. Or did Mahomes just sort of turn it on?
Well, it's one of those things where it's desperation time. They just air it out, and that is the Achilles heel with the Patriots defense. It's they don't get off the field on third down. They're not great. They are worse statistically on third and long. Like they're worse on more than 3rd and 5 than they are less than 3rd and 5. I mean, if it's 3rd and 1, 4th and an inch,
they can stop it.
They can stop it. 3rd and 9.
Oh no, our secondary.
And that's the thing. It's like they have gotten to the quarterback more. Goff is not Mahomes. He is not. I don't think he's a Phillip Rivers. I don't. But McVay, their coach is just like Belichick has 2 weeks to figure out a way to scheme against their best players. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to scheme against for the defenses to scheme against Cook, who was on the roster last year.
How good is or how is Goff under pressure? Like he's scrambling, does he
not a top? I mean, he's not a bottom 10 quarterback, but I don't think under pressure he's not Mahomes where you got him. And then he throws it sidearm, no look, across the field behind his back, under his leg, kind of
nothing but
Harlem Globetrotter, right? Exactly. You didn't call bank, type thing. So that's the thing. It's like the defense. Kyle Van Noy has had a good year. Oh, you mentioned it earlier. They have Gronk, Edelman, and Brady.
You mean I mentioned it last podcast?
Oh, that was last podcast. Sorry, we'll get to that.
We're talking about the defense right now. I was going to mosey into the offense, but go on.
They haven't had Hightower in last year's Super Bowl either. Hightower, who against the Sea Chickens, everybody remembers the Malcolm Butler, pick. One of the greatest moments in Super Bowl history. Very few people, because of that play, remember on first down, it was a walk-in touchdown, and out of nowhere comes Hightower, who made the big hit, to put him second and goal. Against the Falcons, same thing. It's like the Falcons had to do anything except take a huge sack, and they took a huge sack, take him out of field goal range on one drive, and then the next drive, the strip sack by Hightower. I mean, Hightower, now he's 2-3 years older. He's not but he's had a really quiet, good second half. But Kyle Van Noy almost has come out of nowhere and has just been a monster like the last half of the season. Again, they're a smart team. The Rams have a good, they have a good young quarterback that they were smart enough to build an offensive line around. Hey, I mean, you go back, same thing. Andrew Luck has not been Andrew Luck for 3 seasons. He hasn't played a season and a half, but the Colts went out and their number 1 draft pick was an offensive lineman this year. So the smarter teams like the Rams figured Jared Goff is a good young quarterback. Let's see how he does standing up instead of on his ass.
Kind of like what the Patriots did with Brady.
Right, exactly. So they do. They have a really good offense, but I think our defense matches well. I also think, the Patriots have, like I said, it's funny that they don't do great against scrambling quarterbacks. They do great against the run. They've been one of the better teams against the run. They don't get pressure on the quarterback for the most part until the last few weeks, but they do stop the run pretty well.
Now, what about the Patriots running game?
Patriots running game, I've been saying it all year. You've heard me say it all year. My parents, who I watch most of the games with, have said it. I put it on Twitter, got a lot of positive response on it.
2 likes.
That's a lot in my world. I mean, seriously.
I'm just stating the facts.
Dude, I got late last night. Your wife? Hey, don't, you want to bring details into,
right.
Hey, like John Taylor always says in court cases, why are you bringing facts into a perfectly good argument?
But you were saying about the running game.
James Devlin will never, 80,000 people at Gillette Stadium. I don't think there's 5 Devlin jerseys in the stands. and his entire family tree's there. You know, they have to make their own James Devlin shirts at home with Sharpies. He is an old school fullback, and it's funny because, you know, my parents like when I watch games, especially my mom and my dad, and you've seen many games. Like when I pause it and I'll tell them I'm no Tony Romo calling out plays before, like, you know, he's getting lauded for. And he does do a good job at that. But I'll tell my parents the way they're lining up. I'm like, okay, 46, big neck roll. He wears a big neck roll. I'm like, his one and only job is to hit the first guy at the line and open a hole. If you can, you know, follow him and drive through it, he has been their running game. I mean, Sony Michel has had a decent second half. The first half, you know, he was okay, but a lot of people, myself included, calling him Phony Michel, having a bad knee coming out of college, missing most of training camp with the knee, took him a while to get going. But yeah, he's and when you say running game, people think, you know, obviously Sony Michel, Rex Burkhead, and James White, but James Devlin has been the key to their running game. He's been the key to the running game, and probably the last 4 or 5 games, including the Chargers game, as much as we've been giving, you know, Gronk is done as a catcher, he has been amazing blocking. And if you have no life and you've watched the all 22s and you've watched the games and you've watched all the breakdowns, the amount of blocks that Gronk has been throwing, you know, at the line of scrimmage, 2-3 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, and you know that's all you got to do. You know, if your running game averages 4 to 5 yards, it used to be the Patriots used to have just enough of a respectable running game so that they can't just play the pass. And their passing is more of a running game with the short passes and stuff to James White and to Jules. But their running game is a lot better. And that's actually, it's funny, there's been no decline with Brady. Well, there's been a slight decline with Brady, but their running game has more than compensated. So he's thrown, you know, 4 less touchdown passes this year than he did last year, but Kansas City game, the opening drive, they held the ball for nearly 9 minutes, 75 yards, you know, 50 plus of them, you know, on like 8 runs.
Right, but James Devlin to you is the key.
James Devlin is the key. And
there's not a lot of people kind of lauding his contributions as much as you are.
Because he doesn't score the touchdowns.
Right, but he
doesn't catch the ball, but he's the battering ram. He is literally a human battering ram. That is his job. He stands 2 feet behind Brady and, you know, 2 feet in front of the running back, and he hits the first guy at the line of scrimmage to open up the hole.
And you're saying that James Devlin doesn't have a lot of fans in the stands. He's kind of like the quiet, you know, the quiet knight, if you will. I don't know if that's a term. But you're here to tell everybody how much of an asset James Devlin is. In fact, I would go so far as to say that you, sir, are a Devlin's advocate. I've been waiting 10 minutes to drop the line.
Literally.
God damn it.
Did you stretch before that one? Because I
had time.
Muscle.
I had time.
I don't apologize. But I will say, it's funny because in a game towards the end of the season, twice the Patriots ran kind of a trick play along the goal line, handing it to Devlin instead of Sony Michel behind him, because people are basically trying to get around Devlin. Like they want to get off the tackle and kind of sidestep him to get to Sony Michel where he walked right in. And the team exploded. Like the Patriots, because he's one of those guys, it's like, you know, my mom will never notice him. You know what I mean? Or my dad wouldn't notice him. Most fans wouldn't notice what he does unless somebody says, watch the hole that he opens up each and every play. But the Patriots sure know what the fuck he brings.
And if the Patriots win the Super Bowl, which we all think we will.
Yes.
And Devlin scores a touchdown. But maybe say he scores the game-winning touchdown. We'll all be singing the Devlin went down to Georgia.
You are seriously. Look at you. You are too.
Help.
You got to really work. You got one more to go to get the hat trick. You'll do it. I know you will. The other fun thing about Devlin is like he will catch one pass every 3 games. And again, it's very rarely it's designed for him. It's one of those passes where he's lined up as fullback instead of, handing it off to the running back, Michelle or Burkhead or somebody like that. Brady will fake the handoff and it will be a screen pass. Everything will be covered. No one covers James Devlin. And it's always a 5-yard dump off that, again, people shit on the Patriots. He only throws these like 3-4-yard passes. Yeah, he threw 40 of them and scored 8 touchdowns. So I guess it doesn't look as good as Mahomes with the highlight down the field bombs. Well, of course, he threw a couple of those last couple of weeks, Brady has. But it's so funny, the 1 or 2 passes. I'm going to say Devlin has caught 3-4 passes this year, and every single one I'm so worried about him not catching it, only because he's so alone. And it's one of those things like it's easier sometimes to catch because when you don't have time to think about it, but you're all alone and it's like, and he lobs it to him. So that's a running game. But yeah, I think, they didn't have a running game like this the last couple of times they've gone into a Super Bowl. They haven't. And again, James White will catch 10 passes, though technically he's a running back, but they're more, bubble screens and stuff like that. They're the 2-3-yard passes that you pick up 6-7 yards.
And we hope that, for the Rams' sake, I hope that the defense is like really thinking about stopping Devlin, because the idle brain is the Devlin's playground.
There we go. You got it. Seriously. I mean,
I've seen the mountaintop.
It was an open net goal to get the hat trick, but it was a hat trick nonetheless, Joe. No, you were working really good. Okay, set me up for
the Devlin made me do it. Oh, God damn
it. Look at you.
So now we're talking about the meat and potatoes of the Patriots' success, and that is their offense. We have a healthy Julian Edelman. We have a healthy Rob Gronkowski, and we have a healthy Tom Brady. Never before have we had such in the Super Bowl. What's going on?
Literally, with F&H, we have for a long time, we had the joke MVP jersey, like the first star of the game, and the first star of the game jersey lasted. It still goes on, but it lasted a while, and then. I think second to come was the MIP, most improved, which one of the jokes is it's like, if you win it more than twice, how bad were you that you can win the most improved several times? And then one day Biff came out with the pink no-show jersey. Were you really there? Like, if a tree falls and the rink in Valencia does it make a sound type thing. And after the Super Bowl, again, after the second Super Bowl against the Giants, and I think it was Gronk's rookie year, Biff put an 87 on the no-show jersey, which isn't fair because, he literally tore up his knee in the AFC title game. And you can see where he did it at the podium. Belichick asked him, "Are you okay?" He goes, "Yeah, I'll be good to go. The first possession the Patriots had against the Giants in that Super Bowl, they stopped double covering him. And they covered him, but with one person kind of 5 feet off the line, knowing he was a decoy.
Yeah, they put in Rudy against him. Like that's
and when you go back, it's been less than a dozen times in the past, 4 years that both Edelman and Gronk have been on the field at the same time. And only a handful of times that they've both been right, that they haven't obviously been battling something, fighting through something. And again, it's in the last 2 drives. So against Kansas City, Patriots took the foot off the gas. It should have been over a lot sooner than it was. But Brady had the last 3 times he touched the ball, they had to score touchdowns. They were behind by 4. They have to score a touchdown. And they use Burkhead. They use Sony Michel. They use, you can go down the list. But time and time again, on the last drive, the last touchdown drive, they picked up 4, 3, and plus 10s. A plus 10. Hogan made one great.
I'm sorry, who?
Hogan! They made But if you look at the highlights from the Kansas City game, like I have 1,000 times.
Is Belichick calling you right by this time?
Well, this is what's amazing. It's like, it's Jules, it's Gronk, it's Jules. It's like when you needed 10 yards, 15 yards, how are the same guys? And I mean it. It's like Gronk had the most catches he's had all season. Jules had like 10 catches, and out of his 10 catches, 7 of them were for first downs. And
let's not talk about his drops.
No, he had the one, but that's but it's true. I did want to talk about Jules, aside, we'll get to Jules in a minute, but to focus on this, the running game's been good. They have a healthy Brady. Obviously something was wrong the second half of the season with Brady. And yes, I'm an apologist. They were 11-5. We thought they'd be 12-14 or 12-4 like they always are. I was really hoping for a 13-3 season legitimately, but they had some games on the road. Okay. They had some games on the road that they shouldn't have lost, but they did beginning of the season. And again, I'm being an apologist, but they didn't have Jules the first 4 games. They didn't have Danny Amendola. They lost Cook. Gronk wasn't at the OTAs. And they got rid of, Deion Lewis. So, 5 of his 6 biggest weapons weren't at his ready the first 4 or 5 games of the season. Then Brady gets hurt halfway through. You saw where he fucked up his knee. The 2 weeks off, having that home bye, when they came out against the Chargers, it's like they had a month off, like a college football thing between, their last bowl game and the national championship. They were so well rested. The last 2 games at home, the bye week. By the time they played the Chargers, they hadn't been on a plane in 5 weeks. I think it really helps, and now this helps. So you go down all the positives. I don't want to be too overconfident because you just broke down. There's no shitty teams here. St. Louis has a great coach, a good quarterback, a great running back, a good receiving core, and a pretty ferocious defense. I mean, they do. They got great pass rush. So
I guess it all comes down to the kickers.
It all comes down to the kickers who they have the better puncher. I think we have the better kicker. It's interesting because this might be the first Super Bowl that the Patriots have played. It's going to be interesting to see. St. Louis, the Rams don't have a huge fan base. And although they moved from St. Louis a couple years ago, and that's pretty close to Atlanta, they moved because they didn't have a great fan base. Yeah. And I'm guessing the fans that they did have probably aren't loving the fact that, now you're good again. Like they were good. Who did the Patriots win for their first Super Bowl in 2001? Who was it? Oh, that's right. Not a lot of carryover from that team, but I'm thinking, this might be, people are talking the first Super Bowl in a while that the Patriots, there's no home game. Like 90% of the tickets are corporate, and it's to be at the event. It's not to cheer for this team or that team. You might buy a jersey on the way and then have an allegiance one side or another, a rooting interest a little bit, but it's not like... I
mean, I couldn't say... I take some umbrage with that because, I think we've seen in past Super Bowls the amount of Patriot fans that make their presence known. Maybe it's because massholes are just louder.
Right, but the Eagles last year was definitely... The Seattle crowd was definitely a Seattle crowd. The Falcons, it was definitely more of a Falcon crowd, and definitely, without a doubt, it was 70% Eagles.
Right, because they had never made it. It was like, this is it. Like, this was their, this was their night in the sun.
Well,
what?
Last year, it was everybody's 2 favorite teams. It was the Eagles and who's ever playing the Patriots. So that was the rooting interest. So that's going to be interesting. But like I said, usually you would say a young coach, a younger quarterback, but they do. They have a great defensive coordinator. They have a great, offensive coordinator and their head coach. But I'm excited to see Julian Edelman healthy, Gronkowski healthy, Sony Michel healthy. All the weapons are there.
Tom
Brady.
So now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of our podcast, which is predictions. What do you see as being... you want to take a half, quarter by quarter, half and half? How do you want to break down the score?
So the Patriots have come out, gosh, I think it's like 4 or 5 games in a row. And they did this a couple seasons ago where they scored on almost every opening drive. And they scored on easy on the Chargers to start the game, easy on Kansas City.
That's a coin toss, though.
However, they're 9 Super Bowls, and
how many Super Bowls?
This is Brady's 9th.
How many? 9.
Be like Hitler.
Don't smoke. All right, stop.
So, but seriously, they start off so slow in the Super Bowls. I don't know why they do, but they have horrifically bad. I mean, you see the stats. It's like the lowest, completion rates, the lowest yardage, the most punts. They do not come out of the gate hard. And I said this last year, and I think I said this the year before. This is the year they come out guns a-blazing. And
now they have the guns.
I do. I think it's not over at halftime. I hope it's over at halftime. I hope this is.
Why, you don't want to see Maroon 5?
I really don't. Does anybody who wants to see Maroon 5?
Adam Levine.
Yeah, other than that.
I mean, hey, that guy can shred.
Do you know who, are you old like me?
Yes.
Are you an old racist like me where when you hear the special guest, you have no the fuck idea who they are? Because so last week it's like, special guest. This guy.
Widdly Wadley.
Special, and that was a special guest.
Okay, Zoe boy.
Yeah,
What?
It's like, should I know these guys?
Right. Yeah, no, because you are 50 years old, almost-ish. Not quite yet.
But I'm with it. I'm street.
You're not. You just said you're street. And that is not being with it.
Okay. That's whack, man.
That's wiggity whack. You better check yourself before you wreck yourself.
So that's...
But let's get back to the basics here. So what's the final score? Final score. Because we're running low on time here. We're in garbage time here on the podcast.
38-24 Patriots.
Wow.
38.
Now, what does Vegas
Patriots
have right now as a line?
Well, it's funny. The game started right after the conference championships. 1 point favorite for the Rams. The Rams -1. The money so flew into the Patriots that Vegas is like, oh, fuck. And to have a 4-point swing,
meaning -3 for the Patriots.
Yeah, because -3 for the Pats now. To have a 4-point swing with nobody on either team got injured. The venue hasn't changed.
Right.
Nobody's on the injury report.
It's all about speculation.
And where everybody...
On fan interest, yeah.
Right. Like
Betting, yeah.
And so that's the thing. I mean, if you got your money in right away, the line doesn't change. If your bet was that...
You know who doesn't hate the Patriots?
Who's that?
Degenerate gamblers.
That's so fucking true. So true.
But, okay, so 38-24. I am not as optimistic as you are.
Who is?
I don't know. I mean, and by the way, you're Mr. They got the game in the bag. They're up by 12 with 2 minutes left to go. And you're like, I don't know, man. They could blow it. It's not over till it's over. But yet you're like, yeah, 38-24, man. It'll be over at halftime. Why are we even watching? Why are we even playing? Just bring the Lombardi trophy straight to the Crafts house. No, it's not going to be that close. I think it'll be, I don't know about shootout. It might be a low-scoring event. It might come down to a field goal, a kick. It could come down to the wire. It may be a rally from behind by either side, many sides. I would say my guess is going to be closer to 27-24.
Who scores last?
The winner.
I hate you. Does it? No, but is it 27-24 and the Rams scored a touchdown with a minute left and tried to onside kick it? Or do you think is it one of those things where it's as close as the score indicates?
You know what? I'm going to say somebody does take maybe the Rams. It could be in typical Patriots fashion. The Rams will, or the Patriots will take a. They'll be down a score or two, and then they'll rally and wake the fuck up, and we'll go into halftime tied, and we'll be like, all right, it's a game now. Everybody's back to normal. We can stop sweating through our armpits and head and ass and focus on winning this game. But I think that it's going to be it's going to come down to a field goal. That's my prediction. But because why the hell?
I hate to ask because I'm already dreading this. Here's the hot. No, it's not a hot take, but here's just what's the word I'm looking for? Such a cliche, such a, stupid thing to bring up. So I'm stupid. I'll bring it up. Would you rather they come down to the Patriots having to drive for a touchdown or the defense make a stop? Would you rather the Patriots be down by 4
and then have to score a touchdown to win,
or up by 4
and then have to I would much rather be up. I mean, honestly, statistically speaking, you'd rather be up going into a situation like that, but I'd probably be sweating more in that situation, even though I'd much rather be in that situation.
I mean, the thing is, and I'm going to say what everybody else outside of New England says every fucking time. How does he keep doing it? 3 times he had to come back against Kansas City. We're not going to go down the history of it.
Yeah.
28-3. 2 minutes, 38 seconds left. But seriously,
in the third quarter,
every Super Bowl, and he hasn't won, he left the field with a win. On the last time Brady touched the ball against the Giants, he drove down and won.
Right. So
got off the field, 2 minutes left. Same thing. When Malcolm Butler makes that interception, it was great. But they had just thrown, you remember, a 60-yard bomb that went off the receiver, hit the cornerback, hit the safety, and as the receiver is falling on the ground, somehow is literally a chest hair from his elbow being out, but it lands on him. And it was a miraculous, oh my God, is it the Tyreek catch again? But same thing. When they didn't win the AFC title game, in Indianapolis, Rasheed Caldwell is me to the homer thing there, wide alone, and it was almost an underhand toss. That puts the Patriots up, by 10 points.
So I guess statistically speaking,
they were up by 1.
Yeah.
They were up by 1. They scored a touchdown. The game's over. They didn't have the 2-point conversion back then. So less than a minute. They have to settle for a field goal. Here comes Peyton Manning, and it's the one time he comes back and does it. And it's okay, so Brady didn't win that game, but every time he left the field, they scored on his last possession, except for, last year against, the Eagles. But, he throws 503 yards and doesn't win. So that's the thing. It's how many times have we seen him sit on the sideline and watch his defense
blow it?
Just all you have to do is anything but let them score an 80-yard drive with 4 seconds left.
Do you think that really
Miami?
Do you think that gets in the defense's head? We go through different rosters each year, but there is sort of a mentality where if you're up and you have to protect a lead or nurse a lead and just burn the clock down.
Well,
do you freeze as a
Did you see the
defense?
time of possession against Kansas City?
Oh God! Yeah.
I mean, it was
in the first half.
Even the second half.
Yeah. Overall.
They scored 31 points and had the ball for less than 20 minutes. And what you hope, and these are professionals, so there's no big rallying speech, but the defense hasn't had major turnover from last year to this year. Those guys, now granted, we're not going to talk about why Malcolm Butler didn't play. On our deathbed, I will be saying, why didn't he play Malcolm Butler? That said, the other guys on the field, let Nick Foles, a career backup quarterback, score 6 touchdowns against him. A career backup guy marched down the field time after time after time. And, again, Brady threw for 503 yards.
Brady did not lose that
The Patriots didn't win that Super Bowl, but Brady did not lose that Super Bowl. He didn't lose the second one against the Giants. Both Giants games, he wasn't great.
Right.
He wasn't great, but he did score. There's been so many games where he hasn't always been great. And we say that. It's true. Yeah. He was pretty great last year, and so that's it. So the defense really, I put it more on them because, again, their defense is great, but you do have all your weapons. Every toy in the toy chest is open to Tom. Everything. The running game, the short passing game. No, they don't have the stretch him down the field thing. That that other people have, but it's not really there. I mean, then again, I mean, he did. He had a 30-yard pass to Dobson, which is great. I don't know if you saw the highlight because Jules was mic'd up, and just Jules being mic'd up is just porn for me because, and I do want to talk about all the shit that people have been talking about the Patriots like since the playoffs.
Okay, we've been going on for 45 minutes. What's another 45?
But he's old, and after he throws this great 30-yard thing, down the field, Jules goes over to him. He goes, "Nice ball. You're too fucking old." He walks away, looks back. "You're too old." And somebody took that. "You're too fucking old. You're too old," and just took that like 4-second clip, and it says, "I hear this every time I'm at Chuck E. Cheese in the ball pit." This is every man.
And by the way, you're old because there is no more ball pit at Chuck E. Cheese. That's how old you are.
Wow. Was I talking to the anyways? The bathroom. So seriously, it's the defense has to say, "Look, we can't not win this. Let's and they have to have pride. I mean, Tom didn't throw any threw the one pick in the end zone, but it's not his fault that they gave up 31 points last week. They didn't score on the 2 picks that Tom threw. So the defense really has to shut these guys down. That's what I'm counting on. And it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. No, Brady's not retiring. Brady has to play a couple more years. Not because I want him to, but because of the TB12 thing. He has to play good the next couple years in order for him to his next phase of his life. He's been saying for 5 or 6 years he wants to play till he's 45. So if he plays till he's 43, 44, gets hit or something like that, as long as it's not a huge Max Kellerman decline like he says, but Gronk's probably gone. And again, Gronk, the last couple regular season games, caught like 1 or 2 passes, did good blocking, but wasn't Gronk. Against the Chargers, he had a decent game catching, but last week he was Gronk. He caught like 6 passes. I want to say 4 of them were for first downs. He caught a couple 5, 6, 7-yard catches and ran for 5 or 6 yards with guys draped on him. He's had 2 weeks off. He wants to go out and win. He's a really smart guy. As much as the Tide Pod stuff and whatever people want to say, he's a pretty smart guy. He understands that Tom's legacy is set. He's probably a Hall of Famer, but you know what? A Super Bowl MVP trophy, a great Super Bowl game where he catches 6, 7 passes for 70, 80 yards is going to go a long way.
Now, what about Edelman?
Edelman, here's the thing. When they talk about Tom Brady dinking and dunking, short 5, 10-yard things, and we joked about it watching the Charger game. I mean, it's what, 35-7, and we were saying, the talking points tomorrow is going to be that it's all this screen passes, it's all these 4 or 5. It's like, and they
all these first downs,
right?
Too many first downs.
They like at one point during the Charger game, they showed the stat that the Patriots had 21 first downs and the Chargers had run 20 plays. Like they had more first downs, and they were 5 or 6 first downs on the way down the field to score touchdowns. And then, of course, the next day you had the Max Kellermans and the Rob Parkers and stuff like that, and the Colin Cowards saying it's like it's this short little screen shit and blah blah blah. It's like, dude, they just won in Kansas City on the road. That said, that target is often Julian Edelman. Here's the thing. It's like even locally, Julian Edelman is kind of a tool. You know what I mean? He's kind of obnoxious, and he is so where are we going, Spike? What are we doing? Nah, we wouldn't want to do that. What we Spike? He's been a Tom Brady jock sniffer ever since he was a rookie. He's been trying to. I mean, he has. I thought it was a joke when he came out with his JE11 clothing line. I did. I thought he was. I literally thought he was mocking because he's friends with Tom Brady. I thought he was mocking the TB12 stuff with his JE11 stuff. Nope.
Right.
Serious as a heart attack. And people, again,
I would say like he should have come out with Julian Edelman wear.
Right. But his logo looked. I mean,
but
I thought he was gonna.
But if he came out with Julian Edelman, where he could be JEW. Come on.
Okay, I see what you see.
God.
Wow. What would JT? Hold on.
What JE do?
What would what would
JEG?
Jesus do? And shut up, Jacques. Anyways,
Well, who cares what Jesus would do?
what would Jules do?
Yes.
So what would Jules do? So he doesn't have this Darren Hester reputation for. I think Darren Hester has a record for like 9 or 10 kickoffs or punts returned for touchdowns, which after the first 5 or 6, yeah, he's standing over there. Why don't you kick it in the other direction? But Jules does, like every year, except last year when he was injured, he's always in the top 5 of yards returned, punts returned. He's a great punt returner when he doesn't almost muff it. But he does. People probably don't remember because his first couple years, Welker was still on the roster. Julian Edelman was the kickoff returner and the punt returner. And that's how he got Wes Welker's job. I mean, he literally, made Wes expendable, which was unthinkable to people like me back then. That I loved Jules back then, but I could never imagine him filling Wes Welker's shoes. But he has. Julian Edelman right now is second all time in catches in the playoffs behind Jesus and Cleats. Michael Irving, 3-time Super Bowl, winner with the Dallas Cowboys, considered one of the greatest receivers of the 90s, refers to Jerry Rice as Jesus and Cleats. Julian Edelman is second behind Jesus and Cleats for the number of catches in the playoffs. Now, granted, he's played a lot of playoff games, but do you hold that against him? And now, if he's 44 yards away from passing Michael Irving in second place in most yards caught in the playoffs. This doesn't count. I mean, I don't think Michael Irving or Jerry Rice return punts or return, kickoffs. And Jules hasn't returned kickoffs in a long time, but he returns punts still. He's still, Julian Edelman has thrown a touchdown pass in a very important playoff game. They're down by 14, the double pass to Amendola. I'm bringing this up because people here even mock, is he a Hall of Famer? Of course he's not a Hall of Famer because he doesn't have I was going to say he doesn't have the circus catches. Of course he has the circus catch against Atlanta 2 years ago. He's surrounded by 4 guys. How he caught it, how the ball never hit the ground. It's one of the, it's up there with like the immaculate reception and other things like that. So he's not done playing. So if he has a good Super Bowl, if he has an average Julian Edelman game, now granted, I think Jerry Rice is like 60 catches ahead of Jules. Like he's at like 160 and Jules, or he's like 154 and Jules is like 98, on catches. And the other people behind Jules, like the top 5 people behind Jules, are out of football. So by the time Jules gets done, if he plays another 2 or 3 seasons and the Patriots play 1 or 2 playoff games, there's a small chance. There's a very small chance that he'll catch. But it's not unheard of that Julian Edelman has had a 10-catch game. Now, granted, he has 10, 5, 8-yard catches because there's 2 guys on Gronk and there's 1 guy running downfield, Hogan, who has better speed, going downfield. But Jules catches in traffic. Knock on wood, he catches. How he doesn't fumble when he gets hit the way he does, it is amazing. But if he catches for 44 yards, he's second all time in yards, in the Super Bowl or in the playoffs. How do you say that somebody who's second and the most catches and second in the most yards has thrown a touchdown pass, and if he wins, this will be his 3rd ring and 4 trips to the Super Bowl. He wasn't there last year, but 3 rings. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of wide receivers with that kind of pedigree who are out. And he's just this little obnoxious thing but do you think that, the Rams aren't worried about who's covering Jules? Do we put our best corner on Jules or our best linebacker on Jules or our second best linebacker on Jules and move our best linebacker over, our double up a linebacker with a corner on Gronk. So
Yeah, so you're saying the Patriots are going to win?
I'm saying the Patriots are going to win. I'm going to say it's been so enjoyable. Yes, Patriot fans obnoxious. I am the worst case scenario. I am the worst of the worst of the worst. I'm snotty, condescending, arrogant, like tweeting things out like, the Patriots, the city really needs this championship because we haven't had a parade since October. I mean, those are the douchebag things that people in New England, say. And I've been harsh on the Patriots this year. Here's the funny thing. It's like all season long, every time they've not won a game or Brady hasn't been great, it's like, well, he missed the OTAs in July. He doesn't have the same work ethic. And he hasn't. He hasn't had the same fanatical posting on Instagram all summer, his insane workouts. He wasn't at the OTAs. He wasn't at the field every day first. He wasn't putting in these crazy hours. And everyone's like, his commitment's gone. He's not as interested. Football is as important to him. And he still gets to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But what fuels me, what gets me really engaged, it's like when you talk shit about your mother or your wife. Oh my God. My wife is, a couple guys going drinking. It's like, yeah, she's overbearing. I don't do anything right. She's always nagging me. Yeah, she's tough. What did you say about my wife? You know what I mean? It's like, my mom's a bitch. Yeah, your mom can be hard on you, man. What did you say about my mom? I am like that because the closer you got to the playoffs, it's like, oh, they're in an easy division. It's not fair. It's the Jets and it's the Bills. And it's like, he's not that good. He's always in. And then it's like, well, they always play a cream puff. And they've played cream puffs in the first round before. They play cream puffs in the second round again when Team Tebow comes to town. But they've all, but that's the thing. It's like the falling off a cliff and all the bullshit of, well, okay, sure, they beat Phyllis Rivers and it was, and they finally had a big game, but he's 3-4 on the road in the playoffs. The reason he's so good is he always gets to play at home. Well, because the Super Bowls aren't considered road games, and it's true.
Yeah.
So you lost to Peyton Manning, who forever you were comparing to be the greatest, him. He's lost 2 of the 3 road playoff losses have been to Manning on the road. So it's like, that's why they were so excited. And everybody talking, even locally, the guys are talking. It's like, well, it's lucky they were offsides. Oh, it's lucky it wasn't an interception. Oh, it's lucky it didn't hit Edelman. It's like everybody, and now they're trying to bring the cheating thing back. And what I love is a couple people have brought up Deflategate. And I'm going to completely play
Devlin's advocate.
Thank you. Thank you. That was so awesome. Let's say, yes, that they intentionally took 0.2 tenths of a PSI out of a football. Because that's all it was. It was 2 tenths. Okay, Tom Brady did it all by himself. He cheated, and they took the balls away from him. And they made him play with the fair balls. Well, in that game against the Colts, he ends up going and throwing 4 touchdowns in the second half. Then they go on to win the Super Bowl, 2 weeks later, with the league and the whole world watching him. And then the next year, under the scrutiny of every ball being measured and the pressure of having to testify and all this stuff, what does he do? He goes on to be the league MVP. And no, he didn't win that Super Bowl, that year, but he, they didn't win. No, they did win that Super Bowl. No, let me get this straight. They beat the Colts. They won the Super Bowl against Seattle. The next season is when they made it to the AFC title game. They shanked an extra point, which ended up meaning they had to go for 2 points at the end to tie it. They don't get the 2-point conversion. But he goes from being winning the Super Bowl, going to the AFC title game and losing on the road in Denver. The next year, and being league MVP. The next year, they beat Atlanta in the Super Bowl, and this year they're back in the Super Bowl. So ever since Deflategate, Brady has gone to 3 Super Bowls in a row. winning 2 of, he's been to 4 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. So ever since Deflategate, you've made it to 4 out of 5 Super Bowls. You've won 3 so far. Why are people bringing it up? Why are people bringing it up?
I want the record to show that I did not bring up Deflategate.
You did. No, but that's what I'm saying. Everybody is I mean everybody. And I know Biff's saying, let it go, and he'll tweet something about it, and rightfully so. And I want to bring it up, except all the shows are bringing it up again.
Because there's 24 hours of news to fill.
No, but there's local talk stations, there's national shows, there's ESPN, there's Fox Sports, there's the NFL Network. Each one of these talking heads have to, and the easiest low-hanging fruit to say, well, and here's the other thing.
Oh my God.
Deadspin. No, did you see the Deadspin?
No.
Put out looking for, like they said, here's the address to anonymously contact us for dirt on Tom Brady. Look it up. It's on Twitter. Because people are saying there's no way he's 41 years old and being able to do what he does. They're saying, and then of course, you have the Rob Parker say, well, there's got to be something. There's got to be PhDs or steroids. And again, Drew Brees not got fucked? Would they be saying, well, how is Drew Brees in the Super Bowl? How he's 40 years old. He's a year, less than a calendar year younger than Tom Brady. How come you don't hear and that's what we love. Like the fact that everybody's now trying to say this has got me more engaged.
Well, we've run out of time here on the Super Bowl 53 unnecessary preview show from Carnival Personnel.
So what's your final score?
Mine is 27-24. I say it's going to come down to a field goal.
You didn't say who?
Patriots.
Okay. And I am sticking with my 38-24.
All right.
And I'm saying
38-24-36. Now,
who do you have MVP?
See what I did there? MVP? Devlin. No, I don't know.
He had one game where he scored 2 touchdowns. But that's one of the brilliant things that the Patriots have done in so many things. Are you expecting the ball to go to him that much?
Right.
I mean, you got the Dobson. Hogan, where's he been all year? I mean, he has barely been targeted. But when he was, he's come up big. I mean, or is it just too easy to say Brady? Not Brady. Okay, you can't say Brady. You can't say Goff. Who do you have for MVP?
Maybe Gronkowski.
I say Brady.
Well,
no, I'm just being.
No, you say Brady because you know it's going to be Brady.
No, but it'd be great if it was Gronk. I'm pulling for Jules. I really am pulling for it to be Julian Edelman.
Yeah, we'll see. Only time will tell. And luckily for you, you only have to wait how many hours?
By the time this drops, well, when we started, it was 85 hours. So I think we got about, 12 hours?
Right.
Just seems like I've been talking.
So you've just been listening to part 1 of the Super Bowl 53 preview by Jacques.
And Joe.
No. I'm editing myself out.
You will not take that Devlin gold out of here. The Devlin went down to Georgia. Because if he scores a touchdown, that's what they're going to say.
Something's going to happen. Yep, I called it. I'm a hack. So, all right, well, go Pats. And Jacques, thank you for your insight. I'm sorry we ran out of time. My apologies to Matt Damon. And Jacques, don't forget,